I am an only child. I know. Forgive me. Please forgive me. I want to talk today a little bit about what it was like growing up as an only child, what it's like today. Would I recommend? Maybe. Let's talk about it. Hopping right in, I want to get to the pros of growing up as an only child. Christmas morning, yes, it was more epic because the gifts, a lot of them were for me and not for siblings. That was the biggest pro. The rest of it was all cons. Christmas morning, though, was so good. Just kidding. There were a couple more pros. The biggest pro, I would say, is that I was treated with respect growing up from my parents, in the sense that I was treated as like an equal. For example, if we were the three of us going out to eat, it was a mutual decision between all of us. Where did we all want to eat? I was always included as kind of part of the adults. I was always kind of at the adult table. As an only child, because you are more surrounded by adults, you learn how to become friends with adults and to talk to adults from a younger age, which I think was really advantageous for me, especially when it came to education and my teachers. I knew how to communicate well with them. I knew what their expectations were of me. I could really just become friends with a lot of the adults in my life. I feel like having a voice in those family matters and being involved in some of the decision making from that young age was really helpful for me to grow faster and mature faster as a kid. I definitely grew up a bit faster than my peers in that sense. I was a little bit more mature from a younger age, I would like to think. Because I was an only child, I also developed some pretty strong skills at being independent and being okay with being alone and how to entertain myself while I was alone, primarily through YouTube. Those were kind of the good things about being an only child. Now, the cons are that I didn't have any siblings. Because you kind of have to make your own fun as a kid, that can definitely lead to some loneliness. I have a very visual memory of being a child and having like a lot of Nerf guns and having no one to play with me. My parents would try to play sometimes, but often they would come home from work tired and just want to rest. Meanwhile, I'm all amped up with my Nerf guns, wanting to have a Nerf battle. And many times I just had to picture the enemies in my head and make up the scenarios in my imagination to play. It definitely was tricky learning how to share as a kid. I went to daycare from an early age as well because both my parents worked. I do recall not knowing how to share when I was very young. It was hard for me. And sometimes maybe it is still a little hard, especially when it comes to food. Sharing food, I still struggle with a little bit, but I'm getting better at it. But just know, if you ask for some of my food, my first mental reaction is, what the fuck? And then my second one is, it's gonna be okay. The other con that I've heard from only children is that there is definitely a pressure to succeed that's placed upon you from your parents because you're like their entire world. I definitely felt that a little bit when I was very young, but pretty soon that pressure was surpassed by the pressure I put on myself to succeed. So from like 6th grade onwards, I didn't have much pressure from my parents to succeed. They really trusted me to be a responsible young adult. Yeah, the pressure was on me from me. If you're familiar with only child syndrome, that is what people mean to say you have when they tell you that they can tell you're an only child. So I looked up 6 characteristics of only child syndrome and I want to go through them right now. Number 1, loneliness. Check. I think there were lonely times for sure. And I do recall going to spend time with my cousins, who there were 6 of them in one house. Being that like 7th kid and having all of this social interaction was such an adjustment. And then I would come back home after like a month of spending time with them and then feel lonely because now I had to relearn how to be with myself again. But on a day-to-day, I think you just kind of like make it work. You become independent. I was a bit more of an introvert, so I didn't really feel lonely. I just entertained myself. Number 2, spoiled behavior. Maybe I had some spoiled behavior. When I was really young, I guess. I do acknowledge like the privilege I had as an only child growing up and being able to execute on my curiosities because I was the only one my parents had to spend money on. So if I was interested in something, my parents could buy it for me and I could explore that interest. Specifically when it comes to technology, I did have a phone from a very early age. I did have a laptop and like an Xbox. So definitely had privilege in that respect. I think in terms of like the spoiled bratty behavior, I don't think I was ever like that. And the other only children I know were not like that. But maybe that's just because we weren't in the 1%. Number 3, high sense of independence. For sure. Absolutely. I definitely felt this growing up in terms of maturing quicker than peers because of the relationships I had with my adults in my life. I also felt this at school where for the longest time didn't really relate to people my age very well. I think that was because I was an only child and was so often surrounded by people who had expectations of me that were not like kid. I had to act more as an adult from a younger age. And when I was then around other people my age, I didn't connect with them super well. Number 4, poor social skills. When I was younger, when I was very young, sure, yes. I do think that going to daycare probably helped with this. And now as an adult, I don't feel that I have poor social skills. I hope I don't. Number 5, high achievers. Check. Number 6, highly sensitive to criticism. Potentially. As a kid, I was definitely more sensitive to teasing and bullying and all of that. Maybe that was because I was gay and I was teased and bullied. But also part of it was probably because I didn't have siblings doing that to me all the time. So when I would go to school and kids would do it, I didn't really know how to let it roll off the shoulders so much. But you learn with time, and I think probably by the time I was in high school, like these things didn't matter. Okay, so now I'm an adult. What does that mean to be an only child and an adult? I think there are 2 big things that I feel in my life being an only child has granted me as an adult. Number 1 is a really close relationship with my parents. I talk to them almost every day. I usually call them at least once a day. We tell each other everything. For example, the first time I ever got drunk, I told them that I was gonna do this. We have a lot of trust with each other and tell each other, so much about our lives. I feel very close with them, and I know that like we can rely on each other in some sense, probably in a way where they're still like my parents, but they are also like really good friends of mine. The other big thing is that I worry a lot as an adult, being an only child, about my parents and about their health. There is a distinct feeling that when they die, it is just me. That's it. We are a family unit of 3. I have some cousins, but not a lot of family outside of that. When they die, yeah, it's just me. So I worry about their health more than I think probably other kids do. The other thing I worry about is like when they die. Sorry to bring the mood down, by the way, but when they die, logistics are all gonna fall on me. And I worry about having that time and space to process their loss while also like just having to figure it out by myself. I'm not gonna have any siblings to rely on. Who do I call for advice? I don't fucking know. And it really stresses me out. So here's to hoping that they never die. I think these concerns that I've brought up are kind of common amongst only children. The other only children I know in my life have these same concerns. I'm sure most people have similar concerns. There's just that extra element of being an only child. I also think a lot of the only children I know are very close with their parents. The other public figure only child I know who fits perfectly into these categories is Emma Chamberlain, who is like so close with her parents and also constantly concerned that they're going to die. Another notable thing I think being an only child kind of fostered in me is my interest in technology for my career path. Having no siblings, having to be independent and learning to entertain myself often led to using the internet as an outlet for that entertainment. This was before iPad kids, so this was not a given when I was growing up that everyone would just be playing video games on their iPads all day. But for me, I think because I didn't have siblings, I spent a lot more time online, a lot more time learning on YouTube or playing video games and with friends after school through like online multiplayer. I didn't have a ton of ability to interact with kids socially after school, so that was sort of my outlet to do so. And I think the curiosity that was fostered there about technology really led me to be who I am today, which is a software engineer. So that's what I think it means to be an only child for me, what it was like growing up and what it's like now, and how that impacted my life. There are some stereotypes and misconceptions about only children, about their bratty or spoiled nature. I'm sure that was true to an extent growing up. I think, we all mature out of that, I hope. I haven't met an only child that's like really giving only child syndrome. I don't feel that so much in my life today. I feel mostly just very grateful for the closeness of the relationship that I have with my parents, and also feel grateful for the experience of being able to connect with adults from an early age. Like I mentioned, that helped in school, but it also helps in my career today and with other people older than me now. If you're an only child, I'm curious to know what you think or what you feel or what your experiences were like growing up and now as an adult, if you are one. But that was my experience. I hope to see you back in the future. Cheers.